The Tempest by William Shakespeare, designed by Shakespeare. This production of The Tempest is set in Italian Renaissance style, amongst which his ideals are balance and harmony, which given the moral of The Tempest lends itself nicely to the story. Here you can see some of my mood boards, and here you can see a concept drawing of what the stage would look like. Here are some simple rendered images of the skeleton of the set, and here in the drawing of the right you can see a blue line 160 centimeters from the back of the stage. It's where a flexible screen will be stretched, fixed to the floor and the grid above. Immediately in front of it will be a hollow sculpture of a human hand with marks that look like fingers head dug into sand. The flexible screen is there for the dancers to lean into to manipulate the shape of the backdrop. There should be some kind of scaffolding behind it to allow dancers at the top as well as the bottom. On stage will be 4 Corinthian columns, 2 on the stairs and 2 on the thrust stage. Here you can see where the sculpture would be placed. They should also be suspended from the grid above. And here are the measurements for the hand. Before we get into the storyboard, I'd like to take you through the costumes. This is Prospero in his magic robe, which should be a giant shroud with a painting on it. The subjects of these grotesque Renaissance frescoes are mischievous, humorous, and fantastic. Women transforming into columns, half-human, half-animal creatures, harpies, and climbing plants sustaining impossible weights. Here's Prospero in his general costume, a thin see-through shirt that allows us to see his tattoos, which are alchemy symbols, such as the quincunx, which spiritually means attaining the highest level of enlightenment, and combined symbols of the 4 elements and the planets Saturn, Uranus, and Jupiter, as well as the Sun. These planets and the Sun symbolize ego, learning, authority, discoveries, revolution, individualism, intellect, and the god of thunder. The audience may not pick up on all this symbolism, but the tattoos produce an unusual, maybe even cool-looking Prospero, and it will provide the actor with a meaningful armour. In the epilogue, Prospero would roll down his trousers to cover the tattoos on his legs and wear a jacket with a simple Renaissance silhouette covered in a print of a famous fresco piece that can be found in the Sistine Chapel, titled Delivery of the Keys. The fresco is not only believed to be a good omen, it represents a New Testament narrative of the power of forgiveness and to allow others into heaven. In my interpretation, by finding forgiveness, Prospero gives himself the gift of freedom. The set at this point in the play would communicate this message too, and I will talk about this at the end of the storyboard. Here we have Miranda in a very simple version of a Renaissance silhouette dress that should be made of a man's shirt under a dress, and it should look dirty, worn, and a bit crumpled. Caliban will be covered in white and grey chalk with red body paint to make him look scaly, and he will have a multicoloured fishnet stretched on his upper body. Ariel's costumes are self-explanatory. His tiny wings should be light enough for him to move freely, and as a harpy he should wear a corset to make his waist look more feminine. Here we have Antonio, whose costume is also pretty self-explanatory, and Gonzalo, who will be wearing a simple medal with a symbol of loyalty engraved in it, and with the symbol of endurance at the bottom of his schmuck. Here's Ferdinand and the King Alonso. The only note here is that Ferdinand should wear a white shirt under his vest so he can take the vest off when he's carrying logs on the island. This is our Trinculo and Stefano, and finally here we have the goddesses Iris on the left, Ceres on the right, and Juno, the Queen of Gods, in the centre. In the opening scene, waves will be projected onto our hand and the screen behind it, while 4 dancers operate the 2 sails we'll have rigged to the grid. You can see Prospero upstage, and the nobleman would be running up and down the thrust in panic. You'll also see dancers in white chalk and with white fabric wrapped around their body. They are meant to be representing the wind and the waves and are extensions of Ariel. The white fabric would catch the projection as they are moving. Here you can see how the sails would work. The green and the red lines are ropes that would be laced up in the sail. 2 dancers would counterbalance and support the weight of a 3rd dancer who will be inside the sail to imitate strong winds. The ropes would be wrapped around the 2 smaller columns on the thrust stage. The sails should be pulled up at the end of the scene and they won't appear again. In these sketches you can see the dancers up close, with chalk on their body and wrapped in fabric. In these images you can see a 1:50 scale model of the hand, and you can see how the lighting could affect the sculpture. The following 2 videos will show you how the projection will affect the hand. The dancers will appear when Ariel or Prospero are using their powers. In Act 2, when Antonio is ready to kill the king and draws his sword, the hand should be lit red, and the dancers behind the stretched screen should push the fabric to reveal many tiny hands. We should transition into this dramatic visual extremely slowly and gradually while Antonio is speaking. The interval should be after Act 2. After Miranda and Ferdinand's confession of love, we enter the scene where Caliban, Trinculo and Stefano plot against Prospero. The lighting here should be simple daylight lighting until we hear the sweet music of the island, where the spotlights should follow the white dancers as we are transported by the music. Here we can see the banquet. The spirits should still be present. During the magic show, the small hands should appear again, and the projection should resemble clear water as if the backdrop was a clear pool. During the climax, the hand sculpture should be the main focus point again, and I would like there to be a moment between Prospero and Ariel where Ariel is finally granted freedom. I'd like him to hand Prospero his new jacket and for Ariel to disappear through the audience. In the epilogue scene, Prospero should be stood alone upstage where all the other characters would exit behind the screen, except for Ariel, who is going to exit through the audience. There should be a lingering spotlight where Prospero stood when he let Ariel go, and one on him as he delivers his monologue. By forgiving those who had wronged him, Prospero gives himself the gift of freedom, and the image that we see projected behind him is basically the reverse of the clutching hand. Palms that are relaxed and open. Thank you so much for listening.